Welcome everyone to our last word for word of the season. As Jacob said, I'm Paul Witcover, the Associate Dean of the Online MFA, and I am very excited to close the season out as we always do with the graduate. I said gradual. Well, I guess it was gradual for some of you. Graduate Student Spotlight event. Okay, tonight we'll hear from 5 graduate readers whose work was selected by capstone and thesis instructors in recognition of their exceptional storytelling and literary achievement. We're delighted to welcome Ethan Bowers from the BA program, Trenton Guthrie and Samantha Hensley from the MA program, and Brandi Shaffer and Samantha Barrow from the Online MFA program. Please note that these readings may include sensitive subject matter. If at any point you need to step away, please feel free to do so and return when you're ready. And finally, because this is a celebration of creative writing, we ask that chat comments stay focused on craft and storytelling. We'll follow up the readings, as Jacob said, with a brief Q&A, time permitting. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jacob to introduce our first reader of the evening. Take it away, Jacob.
Thank you, Paul. I'm honored to introduce our first graduate reader for the night, Ethan Bowers. Ethan Bowers is a queer and trans author who earned his BA in creative writing from Southern New Hampshire University. He wants to immerse readers in queer romance stories taking place within whimsical fantasy settings. A lifelong love of nature and an AS in natural sciences allows him to create scientifically sound fictional ecosystems and creative designs. His work has been featured in Levina Press. He lives in California with his partner, and there are 3 cats. When he's not writing, he can be found crocheting or playing video games. Welcome, Ethan. Congratulations. I'm just going to hand it over to you. And if you want to preface it before you jump in, feel free. Otherwise, looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. The story I'll be reading from is called Copper Scales and Sea Foam. I actually wrote it for one of my class assignments, and my professor at the time urged me to get it published, and I sent it out to 3 different places, and one of them accepted. So very excited to be reading it from the hardcover copy. And I will go ahead and get started. I haven't been able to hear the ocean in almost 30 years, but I can still imagine the sound of the waves as they kiss my ankles. It's July. The sun has just peeked over the horizon, and the water still holds its evening chill. My days usually consist of the same routine: a morning swim, a shower, coffee and oatmeal for breakfast, and then tending to the Curtis Island Lighthouse and all of the unique needs it comes with. My Uncle Ralph taught me everything I needed to know before he passed, and I've been keeping a good light for him for nearly 2 decades. I miss the company. My favorite task is cleaning the Fresnel lens. It looks like a permanently rippling pond, each ring containing a fractured rainbow. No 2 lighthouses flash the same light pattern, and this one flashes a green light for 4 seconds, goes dark for 1, and repeats every hour of every day. I feel a kinship with the building, 25 feet of white brick with the roof and railing painted black. For the sake of incoming ships, we both must continue our cyclical routine on this lonely island. I wade through the gentle waves until they come up to my chest and begin to swim. My head finally submerging wakes me up completely, any sleep left in the corners of my eyes replaced by salt as I swim out to sea, turn, and make my way back home. Climbing back onto the rocky shore of the island, a copper flash in the water catches the edge of my vision. I turn around and see someone swimming toward me. Maybe their boat capsized, or they got swept out by a riptide at the beach. I step back into the water and motion for them to keep coming towards me. Their head rises above the water, revealing bright orange hair. The way it floats on top of the waves looks like a spilled shipment of mandarin oranges. The soaked orange curtain of hair parts over the figure's face, and bright green eyes meet mine, surrounded by masculine features, sharp but elegant, and a smile too casual for the situation. As he gets closer, I notice freckles dotting his face and arms, slightly pointed ears, and rather large incisors blinking in and out of sight as his mouth moves. He's trying to say something to me. "I'm so sorry, I can't hear you," I sign. "I'm deaf." The figure stops moving. His relaxed face tenses with suspicion. Is he afraid of me? I try signing again. "It's okay, I won't hurt you." I put my hands up next to my head to show I mean him no harm. The figure tilts his head to the side and disappears under the water. A bright orange tail appears in his place, and with a splash, he's gone. I start watching the water closer than I had before, keeping a lookout for those coppery scales. 10 days have passed, and I haven't seen the creature again. Maybe the isolation of the job is finally getting to me, and I hallucinated the whole thing. That doesn't keep me from feeling distracted. I can't shake the image from my mind while I try to do my usual work. He seemed so real. I wipe the windows of the lighthouse until I can see my reflection in them. The bags under my eyes are almost as dark as my hair. Well, as dark as the parts that haven't turned gray yet. I've replaced my morning swim with a walk around the island. I'm a little scared of being dragged out to sea by whatever that creature was. After 11 days of walking, I round the northeastern corner of the island to see the creature lounging in the tide pools, snacking on hermit crabs. The full length of his goldfish-colored tail is comfortably curled in the tide pool, and he looks to be over 8 feet long. His scales fade into a slender pale waist, and large gills sit between the bones of his ribs. He flicks an empty shell into the water and looks up at me. He waves like he was expecting me, and to my surprise, he starts to sign something. It's dangerous for a human to be alone in a place like this. He smirks at me. I almost ate you last time we met. His long fingers have frog-like webbing between them, and matching golden scales dust his knuckles. I step closer and ask, "What are you?" with a slight tremble in my hands. I guess you wouldn't be able to tell without hearing my song. He smiles, showing off his sharp teeth and signs. I'm a siren. What's your name, human? Wallace. What's yours? It's Elio. His eyes slowly trace me up and down before he signs again. Well, Wallace, I have decided you intrigue me. Would you mind if I came to visit this little rock you seem to call home every so often? It seems awfully lonely. He picks up another hermit crab, scoops the flesh from the inside with a clawed fingertip and eats it, once again flicking the empty shell back into the waves. Plus, there's plenty of good food to be found. Not used to having visitors, I hesitantly agree. Elio quickly worms his way into my routine. Visiting every 3 days turns to every other day, and after a month he starts to visit every morning. I learn a lot about sirens. They use their own variant of sign language to communicate underwater, and their voices are mainly used to hypnotize humans and lure them into the water to be eaten. They try to avoid dining on humans, but apparently all the fishermen in the area have made it difficult for them to hunt enough food for the pod. Sorry for almost killing you, by the way. You looked so vulnerable and delicious. The comment catches me off guard. It's hard to remember Elio is dangerous when he looks so bright and beautiful. Through some bumpy conversations, I learned that they have different signs than humans do for all the marine creatures. We have to play charades for me to figure out what animal he's talking about a lot of the time. Apparently they migrate at the same pattern as whales, and although they don't have a calendar system like we do, I calculated that Elio and his pod would be leaving in October, swimming to warmer waters near the equator. I start bringing fruits and other foods for him to try. His favorite ends up being peaches, and he almost threw up trying bread. He's never had anything so dry. I try to explain cars to him, but he laughs and accuses me of trying to mess with them. One day, Elio shows up injured, with a deep cut on his right shoulder. I run back to my house to get my first aid kit. When I return, I carefully step into the tide pool. As I begin cleaning the wound, I realize Elio and I have never been this close before. He smells like freshly cut seaweed and salt, and his skin is cool to the touch. He winces as I start stitching him up, and once my hands are free, I ask him what happened. He seems fidgety, and he won't look me in the eye. He brushes it off as a hunting accident, and says he came here so he didn't leave a blood trail for the sharks to follow him back to his family. I don't fully believe him, but I tell him he can stay and rest for as long as he'd like. What were you hunting? I've been trying to catch this one human for ages, but he won't leave the tiny little island he lives on. I thought having an injury might finally get him into the water. He playfully splashes at me with his tail and bares his teeth. He's obviously avoiding his subject, but I can't help myself from laughing. Elio signs, "I like your laugh, it's cute." Suddenly self-conscious about how I might sound, heat spreads over my cheeks. He reaches out to touch my face. His hand is cool and soothing, but the heat only worsens. The distance between us closes as his lips meet mine. Gentle at first, but quick to tease with his tongue. I explore with my hands, fingertips grazing the scales where his tail meets his hips. He pulls back, and without another word, he swims off. And that is where I will leave y'all.
Wow, that was amazing, Ethan.
Thank you.
I loved that, and just the build up and stuff, like just how things are revealed to us as it goes along. It's like, oh, okay, this is a deaf narrator and signing to this mysterious thing that we don't quite know what it is. I know my colleague Paul guessed that it might have been another creature, not a siren, but that we eventually find out it's a siren, and then this romance kind of blooms from it and stuff. Just very great job just pulling us along on this beautiful tale and stuff, and
Thank you so
lots of
much.
fans in the chat, so thank you. So yeah, what got you interested in this particular genre? I mean, there's a lot of things happening here. Why'd you decide to write in this form?
I think just based on like the state of the world right now, it's very important for representation to be out there and for queer people in general to take up space. And like if my stories can make someone feel like seen and heard and safe, like I've succeeded at my job.
Well, that's beautiful. And I mean, like, who couldn't love this? It was just so beautifully written and
Thank
very
you.
cool. Yeah. So thank you. Great. Well, stick around. We'll have you again at the end in a Q&A roundtable. But for now, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next reader. And Paul's going to introduce the next reader. So I'm going to hop off camera, and Ethan and Samantha, if you'd like to hop off camera as well, we'll just continue and go from there. All right.
Okay, so I'm back, and I'm pleased to introduce our next reader, Samantha Barrow. Samantha writes characters that make you feel and plots that make you think. Her contemporary romances are full of first times, second chances, and happy ever afters. She has several short stories published in magazines such as Literally Stories and The Pink Hydra, and is currently querying her debut novel under her intended pen name of Gemma Morgan. When she's not completely immersed in the worlds of her imagination, she resides in Georgia with her 2 cats, 1 dog, and very own golden retriever, MMC. So Samantha, I will turn it over to you. Oh, you're muted.
Let me unmute first. I'm going to read a little section from my thesis novel. It is called In the Name of You, and it is a YA romance. And this is going to be from chapter 10 called Bar Crawl. And yeah, so I'm just going to get right into it. You're drunk. I say it like an accusation, and maybe it is one. Sloane leans her head back, eyes lidded as her long hair glides down her shoulders like a waterfall, and she smiles. I know. Her breath blows across my face, and I can taste the bitterness of her beer mouth on my tongue. I've never hung around anyone this intoxicated before, at least not anyone my age, and I don't know how to feel about it, especially since it's Sloane. All the parties I've been to were church sanctioned, where you're more likely to catch a sugar rush than a buzz, but I can tell this is normal for her, getting wasted in seedy bars full of seedy people. Just more proof that she and I come from completely different places. It's nice, though, seeing her so comfortable, so in her element. A stark contrast to how she's been at camp recently. I feel like this night out is just as much for her as it is for me. Empty cans of Coors Light line the edge of the bar. I stopped trying to control the amount of booze she bought with her fake ID around 5 cans ago. Well, as long as you know. I roll my eyes and take a sip of my off-brand Sprite. It was either that or tap water, and if there's one thing my mother taught me, it's to never drink the local water. I want to do another song, Sloane screams, her voice cracking. It's a wonder she hasn't gone hoarse from all the yelling and singing she's been doing for the past 2 hours. It's karaoke night at Bud's Beer Hall. Flyers tacked up at the front of the bar advertise half-off drinks and over 100 songs to choose from every Wednesday night. Lucky for Sloane, she absolutely, positively loves karaoke. Unlucky for everyone within a 2-mile radius of Bud's, she's absolutely, positively tone deaf. The couple on the makeshift stage finishes out their slurred version of Need You Now by Lady A, and I'm convinced being a bad singer is a requirement for karaoke. Again, I don't have much to compare it to. The bar has to be closing soon, and Dom will need to drive us back to the dirt road because I'm shit at remembering directions. I'm not looking forward to that hike back through the woods either, considering it's 3 a.m. I hope we don't get lost. Nothing stopping you, I say with a chuckle as I place my hand on the dip of her waist to keep her from flipping off the too-high chair. But don't you think we should be heading back soon? Instead of wiggling out of my hold, Sloane folds herself into it, forcing my hand to wrap around her further, to where her tight tank top rises and her smooth skin burns hot against the palm of my hand. I can practically feel the fight drain out of me. I press my fingertips down into the curve of her body as I rush to try and memorize how she feels, how she moves beneath my touch, just in case this is the only time I ever get to hold her like this. She pushes her head into the crook of my neck, falling into my chest, and takes a deep breath. I do the same. Like always, I'm dizzy with her, with the coconut of her hair and the heat of her skin, with how it scorches through my thin t-shirt and how her legs slot right between my thighs, with the way she wraps her arms around my chest and her fingers dig into the fabric of my shirt. I bring my other arm around her, centering us both, gripping her tanned, buttery skin, and God, is it possible that she could ever taste as good as she smells? That someone like Sloan could ever want to be like this with someone like me? I'm too hopeless to be that hopeful. But then when her nose nuzzled into my shirt, Sloan says, "I think I might like you, Nathaniel." My body hums to the beat of her revelation, pulse quickening and breathing turning ragged. She likes me. Sloan Miller likes me. And she just admitted it like it was nothing, like it's no big deal, like I should have known all along. God, it's more than I could have ever imagined, beyond anything I could ever possibly deserve. The lights flicker around the room as the bartender cups his hands around his mouth and shouts, "Closing time in 30 minutes. I catch Dom's eye from across the room, where he's been chatting up some scruffy-looking local with an Atlanta Braves cap and holes in his jeans, before I lift Sloan up and out of the chair. She doesn't say anything else as I reposition her in my arms, just looks up at me with those big, honey-dripping eyes and gives me a sweet little smirk that's sticky in the way it holds my attention, in the way it won't let go. My heart pounds against my chest, begging to be let out, to be set free, to rip itself away and fall into the hands of the girl before me. I grip her tighter, scared that my sweaty palms will end with her slipping through my fingertips. I want to tell her how I really feel. I want to be as bold and brave as she was and admit my feelings. I want to snatch the microphone and announce to the whole damn bar that I, Nate Edwards, am in love with Sloan Miller. That's gonna be it.
Sam, thank you so much for that. What a beautiful scene. It's so evocative of those moments of first love being realized. I mean, just beautifully done, sensitive, and your prose is so gorgeous and sensual. So
Thank you.
talk to us a little bit about where this came from.
Yeah, so you don't get to see it here because they're in a bar, but this is actually set at church camp. And I am from the Bible Belt, and I have always kind of felt on the outside a little bit where I'm at, because I'm not very religious and I wasn't brought up that way. And so this is kind of my own interpretation of dealing with that. And kind of like me reaching my hand out to other youth in the area that might be feeling that way, just to let them know that, you know, it's okay, you're not alone. We've been there and there's people out there for you.
I think you'll see a lot of people in the chat were experiencing that sense of recognition and familiarity. So thank you so much. As Jacob said, we'll bring you back for the Q&A, and I'm going to turn it over to Jacob now to introduce our next reader.
Thank you, Paul. And yes, mentioning being a writer in the Bible Belt, really the chat exploded from that, including from our very next reader, Trenton Guthrie. So this shall be interesting to hear. But let me introduce him first. It's my pleasure to introduce Trenton. Trenton is an aspiring screenwriter whose work explores horror and science fiction, focusing on memory, fear, and identity. Born and raised in Oklahoma, he developed a love for literature and film at a young age. His writing often features complex characters facing both internal and external horrors of real life, where the monster or demon may become secondary to the fears within. He recently earned a master's in English and creative writing from SNHU, specializing in screenwriting. Trenton has worked in various education roles, including English teacher, college and career coach, and content writer. He enjoys inspiring others to become storytellers in their own lives and find joy in helping develop new ideas. Trenton, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to be taking time to read part of my thesis screenplay that I turned in for my grad studies. And it is a queer horror screenplay called Romans, and it's set in the 1980s about a 17-year-old boy named Roman who moves into a haunted house with his deeply religious mother named Marianne. But as he develops a crush on a classmate named Chris, his already strained relationship with his mother begins to unravel. And since I am reading from a script, I'm going to be reading the descriptions and the dialogue. I'm only going to read the character names when they're introduced, so that way I'm not repeating the names like over and over again. Okay. But here we go. So, interior dining room evening. A quiet dinner is common in the Peterson home. This one is no different, that is, until Roman breaks the silence. Roman, hey mom. She doesn't look up from her plate. My friend Chris asked if I can go with him to the city this weekend to catch a movie at the drive-in. Marianne. Who's Chris? My friend from school. He's new. What movie? Not sure. He also wants to go to this artisan food market that's going on. Just don't watch anything inappropriate. Roman pauses, looks down at his plate, then back up. So, can I? You'll be getting back late if you're going to the drive-in. I know. We'll leave as soon as the movie's over. That's fine. Seriously? Marianne finally looks at the stunned Roman, not just up from her plate, but actually at her son. You expect me to say no? Roman stutters. Think since I'm a horrible mother, you can't have fun? I didn't say that. You don't have to. I know what you're thinking. You hate me. You hate this house. Mom. And I'm sure you think you got stuck with the wrong parent. Mom, you can't say things like that. It doesn't matter. What matters is that God is keeping this family together one hard day at a time. I have things to learn, and so do you. She goes back to her plate. Marianne takes a small bite, then looks up. You can go, but just remember, you're becoming an adult. And making adult decisions is hard, especially ones that follow the Lord's teachings. Remember that when you don't have your mother around. Roman goes back to his plate, but then lays down his silverware. Interior, Roman's bedroom, night. Roman is asleep on his side, curled up with a blanket. Through the darkness, a creaking sound. His bedroom door is slowly opening. Strong, heavy footsteps can be heard, but no one is there. Roman doesn't budge as the footsteps get closer to his bed. The mattress caves in as if something sits down next to him. His curls hanging just above his eyes are brushed over by a ghostly hand. Roman rolls over to his back. Then, a handprint slowly appears around his neck. It's dark and gray, and it darkens even more. Roman gasps, breaking the silence, and he shoots up, catching his breath, feeling his throat and neck. It was a dream. The handprint is gone, and the bedroom door is closed. Roman takes a breath and lays back down on his side. He closes his eyes and tries to get comfortable. A new hand, now visible, reaches from behind him. It slides around his waist. Roman awakens. His eyes fill with fear as he looks down at the hand. He slowly rolls over, horrified about what's to come. His eyes follow the arm. Roman finds that it leads to a sleeping Chris next to him. Roman rolls completely over. Chris stirs awake. Chris. Hi. Roman. Hi. What are you doing? Just sleeping. Chris puts his arm back on Roman. Roman scoots closer. Gently, their heads press together, sharing the same pillow. Roman closes his eyes as a soft smile appears. Interior Roman's bedroom, morning. Roman darts awake as the sun seeps into his room. He's alone with no Chris. Roman stares at the empty spot beside him. He sighs heavily and buries his face into his pillow. Interior, upstairs bathroom, later. Roman enters the bathroom in his pajamas. The bathroom is small, claustrophobic, with off-red tiled walls and white speckled tiled floors. Roman brushes his teeth tiredly. He spits out the toothpaste, puts the toothbrush down, then looks up into the mirror. He stares at himself intently. He doesn't seem confident in what he sees. His hands grip the sides of the sink. He looks down at them. Roman then lifts them slowly and moves his hands closer to one another. He looks at them uneasily. He stares at the backs, the palms, then the fingers. His fingers then slowly interlace, mimicking hand-holding. He looks at his hands and sighs. He tenses his lips to keep them from quivering. Roman looks back at the mirror, seeing himself in it. Something about his image makes him uncomfortable. It's his hands. He quickly separates them. He glances back up at the mirror, holding his look for a moment before turning away. And that's all I have for now.
Trenton, thank you so much for reading that. We don't often hear screenplays read, but you did such a beautiful job capturing what was on the page and creating a visual for me that just really makes it come to life. What I was especially drawn to is like so much is said with so few words in the script, which is wonderful. I love movies and film that focus on the surroundings and stuff to kind of evoke the characters' moods and emotions. And that also is just amazing, especially the last scene, the attention to detail and the setting up. The scene really works so well because it really helps us get inside that character's mind, which is just so cool because, I mean, when you hear it read, the movie comes to life in your mind.
Yeah.
So bravo.
Thank you.
What drew you to screenplays? I mean, like, who's your favorite screenwriter? Who inspired you to get into it?
Well, what's interesting is I've always wanted to be a writer, but I've always been drawn to film mainly. And so I've always like kind of had this like conflicting thing of I want to write, but I'm always more inspired by film. And so it wasn't until getting into my master's program where I'm like, oh, I could start screenwriting. Let's see how it works. And so the more I started studying, I think the last one I studied, I actually went through and started reading Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which was insane to do. But it was really just inspiring to actually be able to figure out a way to tell stories, like you said, that rely on little words but more in a way that creates a visual. And so yeah, I've enjoyed the process so far, and I think I've found my little niche in storytelling. I've tried short stories and poetry before, but screenwriting has been like, this feels like me.
That's awesome. Yeah, as well, bravo. It's coming along very nicely, and I'm
Thank you.
glad you found that niche. So yeah, stick around. We'll have you back at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and keep on moving us forward here. Actually, Paul's going to introduce the next reader. So Paul, I'll have you come back on and go from there.
Yep. Thanks, Jacob, and yeah, thanks for that reading. I was kind of torn there between listening to what you were reading and checking out your bookcase behind you. There's so many great books in there. I think I saw something by Mr. Mountain Goats back there, John Darnielle. Anyway, I am proud to introduce our next reader, who is the talented Brandi Shaffer. Brandi is a writer, editor, and literary advocate based in Lincoln, Nebraska. She recently earned her MFA in creative writing from Southern New Hampshire University and works primarily in speculative fiction and romance. She is the founder of Pros and Cons Editing and serves as the lead editor of Northern Shadows magazine. Outside of writing and editing, she volunteers with the nonprofit Lark Songwriters Place, where she assists with literary outreach and co-leads a community writing group. Her work has appeared in the Survival Anthology, Survival and Beyond, issue number 3, and on the Lark Songwriters Place website. She plans to continue her studies in English literature with the goal of teaching at the university level while supporting writers by expanding literary outreach opportunities to rural Nebraska communities. Brandi, I'm going to pass it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So tonight I'll be reading my first scene from chapter 1 of my thesis novel, Empire of Ruins. It's a science fiction romance about a reluctant girl from small town Nebraska who gets sent to an alien world to save a dying Earth. All right. Taylor, please, I need you. I grab my best friend's arm from behind and squeeze it tightly. My kidneys are turning into raisins, slowly shriveling into hard little beans inside my abdomen. I'm not sure how much longer I can stand in this dried up riverbed, the sun's deadly rays blazing onto the back of my neck where my UV gear can't reach. The Protector's Handbook is a joke, but even its rules aren't as oppressive as this heat. Do you know how lucky I was to get that offer? And you sabotaged me. She flings my head off her shoulder and backs away, her eyes wide with a manic kind of fury. You told my supervisor I abandoned my shift to do drugs. You knew damn well I stepped out for a caffeine pill. This job was my way out, Jennifer. My only way out. It's the end of the fucking world, in case you haven't noticed. How else am I supposed to escape this place? The end of the world. Her words echo through my head. I know it's the end. How could anyone not? We pretend like things are normal here in Cliffside, Nebraska, but that's just a survival tactic. It's the only way to keep from going insane or turning on each other. But ignoring the truth is getting harder as the resources dry up. Now, Taylor's shoving that truth in my face like she's waving a red flag at a bull. I stare at her, jaw slack, trying to ignore the sweat trailing down my back. This used to be our favorite spot as kids. Maybe I was stupid for bringing her here to confess my sins, thinking the nostalgia would soften the blow. But how was I to know she would react this way? This isn't how it played out in my head. I break her gaze to look down at the zigzagging cracks beneath our boots. There used to be a small strip of water running down the center of this bed. We'd pulled each other on Mom's old saucer sled for hours, skipping rocks along the shallow liquid, trying to see who could get theirs the farthest. That was before the global warming crisis proved to be real, before the rain stopped coming in regular seasons, and the snowpack from the Rockies disappeared, starving the Platte River, turning the Great Plains into one giant dust bowl. We'd had no clue things would get this bad, that Earth had a ticking clock, and humanity would soon be on the endangered species list. 3 years. That's all the scientists gave us. All I wanted was to live them out in peace with my family and my best friend. If I could go back to those carefree days from my youth and warn myself about what was to come, I'd have cherished those moments even more. We'd been so young and innocent. Our parents and the rest of the adults were too ignorant or too scared to acknowledge what was happening around them. I said I was sorry, I finally mutter. She turns fully away, refusing to look at me. I can't blame her. I'd be pissed at me too. But I'm doing the best I can. What more does she want? I reach for her hand, my fingers snagging the dusty fabric of her jacket. Leave me alone, she screams, shrugging me off so hard I stumble. At least she's not ignoring me anymore. She turns and glares at me, muttering something venomous under her breath before she storms off. I scramble to catch up, the loose, crunchy earth slipping beneath my boots. I refuse to give up. I reach for her again, but hesitate as a gust of wind slices between us. Chalky riverbed dust lifts into the air, swirling into a small dirt devil that whips its tail before racing off. The fine airborne particles that remain burn my lungs, triggering a coughing fit that makes me realize my mask has slipped. I start to pull it up, then let my hand fall. What's the point? If Taylor hates me, I might as well let the atmosphere corrode my lungs and be done with it. I can't do this without you, I gasp, jogging behind her to catch up. Another 20 yards, she spins around. Her finger flies to my forehead, poking me hard enough to make my head snap back. Screw you. I stumble, unprepared for the sheer weight of the anger behind that one fingertip. You're a selfish bitch who only cares about what makes you happy. I'm nothing but a security blanket for you when you're scared. Well, I'm not a fucking blanket, Jennifer Moore. That's not true, I plead. Ha! She barks a laugh, her lip curling. A true friend wouldn't have lied to keep me from leaving. But you're my best friend. You're like my sister. Please, Tay, please. I chew my bottom lip, watching her face contort. The next thing I know, she's hiking up the slope edge of the riverbed, heading toward the solar-assisted sand glider that's leaning against a huge boulder. For a moment, I'm frozen, unable to process what's happening. The further she gets, the faster and harder my heart pounds. I see the future in a flash, her climbing onto a regional transport bus and disappearing forever. I don't have the credits to follow her. If she goes now, she's gone for good. Fuck! I hiss and sprint after her. The slope of the riverbed is steeper than it looks, and the heat blurs my vision into a shaky mess. I get close enough and grab the back of her sleeve. She yanks it away like my touch is radioactive. Stop grabbing me! I'm just trying to talk to you. No. She holds her hand up, silencing me. You're trying to undo something you didn't think twice about doing. The softness of her words cut deeper than the shouting. Taylor, I'm sorry. You're not sorry, she turns on me, eyes blazing. If you were sorry, you wouldn't have called me a druggie to the one person who could get me out of here. I panicked, Tay. That's no excuse. You always panic, she spits. And I'm always the one to pay for it. I flinch. She sees it, but she doesn't react. I'm done accepting apologies that don't mean anything. Her chest heaves. I can't tell if it's the emotion or the lack of oxygen in the dust. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is how you use me. She raises her hand again as I step forward. Just don't. My throat tightens. She sighs, and I can see the moment the fight leaves her and the cold resolve takes over. You and me, she points between us, we're done. We aren't friends anymore. And that's where I'm going to leave it off.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Gosh, that was such a powerful scene. And you know what I found so impressive about it was the way that you used dialogue to drive that scene in a way that felt totally authentic to those characters and that moment and that place. And at the same time, weaving in all of these details about your unfortunately too near future for comfort. Just really, really well done. So can you talk a little bit about the drama of that scene and like how you were able to pull that off?
So I was just picturing what would it be like to be in the future, unfortunately, where everything was drying up. I mean, we have one character that would most likely want to keep things as it is, just ignore the outside world and what's happening. And then the other that, I mean, this isn't enough. We've got to do something and then have those personalities clash. And that's honestly what made me want to write that scene.
Yeah. Is that the first scene of the book?
Yes, that's the opening scene.
Wow, talk about opening with a bang.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it over to Jacob, and we'll bring you back at the end for our Q&A.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Our final reader for the night is Samantha Hensley. I can't believe we're at our final reader already. Samantha Hensley is a Filipino-American writer based in Jersey City, New Jersey. In 2019, she graduated from New Jersey City University with a BA in creative writing and a minor in studio art. Her passion for examining and telling stories inspired her to further her education, and she received her MA in creative writing from Southern New Hampshire University in 2025. Her master's thesis, The C Word, Memoirs of My Professor, honors the memory of a beloved NJCU English professor. Her project is a mentorship-driven memoir that utilizes first and second person perspectives, focusing on themes such as mental illness, loss, grief, and filial love. Presently, she's employed as a writing tutor at her undergraduate alma mater and is expanding her thesis project into a full-length memoir. Her other writing projects include poetry chapbooks and sapphic romance novel. Samantha, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. So I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my master's thesis, The C Word, Memoirs of My Professor. The section is the prologue section. There is some trigger content warning that I want to disclose before I start reading. So there are trigger warnings such as depression, suicide ideation, and implications about childhood sexual assault. Right. So this is the prologue section. I have no memories of my father. When I really think about it, he's more Danny to me than Daddy. Oh, 1 second, hold on. 32 summers ago, he took his last breath in our family's garage. Gun to his head, slick with sweat, everything he was, and ever would be, was obliterated by the pull of a trigger. I understand why he did it. because I should be dead right now. But I'm fucking incompetent when it comes to killing myself correctly. Stood out on the ledge of a bathroom window at 14. Survived. Starved my body at 16. Then again at 19. Survived. Swallowed 2 bottles of ibuprofen at 17. Survived. Plunged a steak knife into my stomach at 18. Well, almost. Survived. Browsed firearm shops in my 20s and 30s. Survived. Mostly because the permit process is so complex yet incumbent, not to mention slow. Perhaps incompetent isn't the appropriate word. What's that saying? Curiosity killed the cat? Sometimes curiosity can save a person. Something inside me told me to climb back in, to eat again, to call 911, to put down that knife, to trash that firearm application. Each time hearing myself whisper from within, just hold on, Sam. Live to see another day. Who knows what it could bring? Don't you want to find out? Sometimes even a whisper of hope is enough. Life has always felt incomplete without my dad. The last home movie we have of him was taken the day before he died. I've watched it many times over the years. Its images are burned into my brain. It's early summer. There's little me in a floral print dress, barely 2, wobbling through the backyard of our Indiana home. My hair's pulled into a messy ponytail and my bangs are completely botched. I have a hunch that my older sisters had something to do with that. They cut my bangs when I was 4. Just imagine it. 2 little Filipina girls who had just started learning how to use scissors. My tiny body stumbles across the brick patio. My mother, who's behind the camera, cheers, "Jump, jump!" A man's shadow quickly passes over the grass. Lolo Pacifico, my mother's father. He and my Lola Vilma had come all the way from the Philippines for my sister's birthday. Holly had just turned 5, just 2 days before our father took his life. Higher, my Lolo shadow says softly to little me. Samantha, my mother didn't sound too cheery at that time. Her silhouette appears on the grass, showing only the upper half of her body. I can see the outline of her haircut, a short bob. I flail my arms and my feet barely leave the floor. As the camera pans to the right, I see my dad, standing underneath a large tree with a sun-scalded trunk. Like me, he has wavy dark brown hair and fair skin. Unlike me, his chin and jaw are covered by a dark, patchy beard. He is dressed like every other boomer dad from the 90s. His white tube socks stop a few inches below his jean shorts, and his beer belly is partially shrouded by a black t-shirt. I miscalculate my next steps over a grassy mound, my head softly colliding with my father's thigh. He picks me up. "Manny in a tree," he says in his southern twang. My pudgy fingers graze the leaves, then I'm grasping onto one of the thinner branches. One of his hands goes beneath my armpit while the other wraps around my stomach. When he raises me even higher, the hem of my dress goes up, revealing the front of my diaper. My mother says, her voice tinged with amusement, "I can see your pee-pee." The corners of my dad's mouth pull up, stretching into the crinkles at the edge of his eyes. Was that the last time he ever smiled? He proceeds to show my diapered butt to the camera. "And your butt!" My middle sister walks up to him after he sets me down. Sarah's wearing a red sleeveless dress with 2 puffy white clouds adorning its bodice. She raises her arms, yipping joyfully, "My turn," with a slightly gummy smile. Never mind the embarrassment. I mean, they're my parents. There's gotta be some unwritten rule that all parents have to capture humiliating videos of their children. But when I watch my father raise me toward that tree, I think about all the other moments he was supposed to lift me. After every childhood nightmare about Chucky, failed tests, friendship, and relationship. And whenever my depression appeared before I even knew its name. I wish my father could have saved himself, because I have. I pull myself out of that swamp when the world loses its color. And when I feel like I can't do it alone, others come to my rescue. And I'll never forget the person who taught me how life-affirming words can be when no one else is around to save me. His name was Chris Westman. An ordinary name for an extraordinary person. To put it simply, he was the father I deserved, and like my father, Chris was taken too soon. There's a song by Sleeping at Last that reminds me of him. It's called Saturn. The singer's soft vocals are accompanied by an orchestral arrangement of string and percussion instruments. The lyrics celebrate the beauty of the universe and ultimately the gift that is life. Chris wasn't the inspiration behind the song, but he certainly could have been. The front of his classroom was his stage. It was the place where he resurrected love and impact of words. And even as he faced death, he continued and encouraged others to find joy and beauty wherever and wherever possible. The simplest things, a line of poetry, a piece of chocolate, a stunning sunset, became his lifeline, even through his final days. Chris brought out the best in me in so many different ways, but his death caused my abandonment issues to resurface. I spent the better part of my adolescence searching for my father in other people, sometimes subconsciously, but was met with disappointment each time. In their eyes, I bore no potential. I was too sensitive, too quiet, and above all, not someone worth celebrating. With others, I was too vulnerable, too trusting, child predator's weakness. I wasn't their target, but likely their next. And Chris was a lighthouse, the complete opposite of a threat. I was never scared of him. When he got sick, I was scared for him. He openly sang my praises, and honestly, there's a difference between what he and my father taught me. Without even knowing he would, my father taught me to fold into myself, to see the world as something inescapable and devoid of color, and that happiness was nearly impossible to find. But Chris, he saw the world differently. He showed me that I never have to look too far to find something worth smiling about. Under his guidance, I learned to embrace life even when things were hard. Losing him felt like I was losing my dad twice, because I can imagine that Chris was the kind of person my father wanted to be. Or rather, the person I needed him to be. In the following pages, I address Chris as you. The words within these chapters recount and reflect upon the life-changing experience of having him as my mentor. Over the years, I've learned that while grief is universal, the experience is unique to each person. I hope that others will understand that grief is not owned by one person. Instead, it belongs to two people, the one who mourns and the one who is being mourned. This grief is ours, mine and Chris's. JPEG, I couldn't hear you. Hello?
There we go.
Okay. Yep.
Can you hear it now? Okay. I was just saying, thank you so much for sharing that that beautiful opening. Very captivating. Very just. You can feel. I can feel you like exploring this trauma and grief, and I think like the thing that really resonated with me and a lot of people that I saw in the chat too is like when you used home movies as a flashback mechanism, but also like not only that, but like knowing that rewatching these things, you're re-exploring it and writing these thoughts and observations down, and then you're living a new grief as well when you're reflecting on this past one, and you capture it so beautifully and emotionally without it being inauthentic. It's so authentic. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Yeah, thank you. What made you, I mean, I know you said you wanted to, I mean, what made you decide to do this particular project for your final project? Like why honor this particular individual?
Oh, so what I found interesting is that when I was an undergraduate student at NJCU for my senior thesis, I did the same thing, but it was like epistolary memoir, but to my father. So it's interesting to see how these are similar but kind of different in different ways, because I feel like I write differently the way I do to my father versus this professor, because they both taught me these different things, and I'm sharing like different memories with them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an awesome setup and mechanism, and I love that you're exploring it, and I hope you enjoy continuing to write it and discover new things as you do so. We are actually at our Q&A moment. Samantha, you can stay on camera, and everyone else who read for us tonight, feel free to pop on as well, and Paul will too. We can take questions from the chat and stuff. So if you have any specific questions that you want to address to anyone in particular, or just all of them in general, feel free to post them. I'm just going to jump off just to get us rolling, and then we can go from there, because this is one that always interests me, and we'll do a round robin of this kind of thing. Well, each of you will give me your answer. Which author or book has had a significant influence on your writing? What made you decide to write in the first place? Samantha, we just ended with you, but let's start with you, and then we'll go around.
Okay, yeah. So when I was writing my project, I was reading a couple of books that kind of deal with similar cases like terminal cancer and grief. One of them was Paul Kalanithe's When Breath Becomes Air, and the second one, for example, was David Menashe's The Priority List, A Teacher's Final Quest to Discover Life's Greatest Lessons. They're both memoirs, and they kind of depict the harsh realities of terminal cancer, and they share memories that shape their career path. And what I really thoroughly enjoyed about Menashe's work is that in most of his chapters, he includes brief letters from former students, and they kind of describe the emotional impact of his teaching as well as his diagnosis. And my thesis project is similar to these works, but more so, I believe, Menashe's. The difference being that mine's written from a student's perspective, which delivers a more student-focused account of like how valuable and impactful, influential teachers are.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I've heard good things about the first title that you had mentioned and stuff, and it's on my list. So I appreciate that. Ethan, let's jump over to you. What about you? What inspired you? What author? What book?
I've been reading ever since I was a kid, and like it's just always what I've been doing, nose in a book. But in my adult life, what's really been influencing my writing is this combination of Mary Oliver and her devotions collection, and like Dan Simmons' Hyperion. Like I love Mary Oliver's like prose and imagery and this sort of like reverence for nature, and I love Dan Simmons' sort of like matter of fact world building that like you're able to learn a lot about the environment he's putting you in without it feeling like rambling or info dumping.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you. And I got to listen to Mary Oliver when I was in graduate school. She was out in Boise, Idaho, and it was very magical. There was a whole crowd of people just swooning over her poetry. It was really good. Paul, do you want me to just go through all of them for this round?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's go with the other Samantha Barrow. What about you?
Yeah, probably like everyone else here. My love for reading started very young. So like specifically with YA, Lauren Oliver, her dystopian series, Delirium, that was really influential for me. Now though, my writing is really influenced by Emily Henry. Happy Place is like my soul book, I say. And Ali Hazelwood. Coming from the fanfic world myself, seeing someone else have such success and gain such a readership coming from fanfic, that's been really inspirational to me personally.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm writing all these names down. This is why I asked, so I can just know what's going on. Trenton, what about you?
Yeah, it's funny because I focus on writing horror a lot, but the first story that I read that actually influenced me was Flannery O'Connor's A Good Man is Hard to Find. Because read that in high school, and I remember having a conversation with our classmates about symbolism, and no one could figure out anything in the story, and our teacher was mad at us. And so she sent us home with homework, and I came back the next day, and it was just like a light bulb just clicked, and I was just like, whoa! It just everything started to like put together, and I was like so inspired by what it all meant. It's also Southern Gothic, so growing up in Oklahoma, there was a lot of just similar vibes and style to it. I'm like, it was like the first moment where I'm like, I want to write things like this.
Yes, that's awesome. I remember reading that one in high school too and thinking it was an amazing. Also, is it Joyce Carol Oates? Where are you going? Where have you been? That's another really haunting one. Yeah. And we had a little streak there. It was like, let's read haunting stories week, but it worked well. Awesome. Thank you, Trenton. Brandi, what about you?
Well, I've always been a reader. I liked things like Treasure Island, Indian in the Cupboard, things like that. But as an adult, and I'm just going to relate it to Empire of Ruins. The two books that influenced that the most, I would have to say, were The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin and Ruby Dixon's Ice Planet Barbarian series. So I liked Le Guin's use of miscommunication and different cultural norms and how they have to trust each other, learn to trust each other. But then I also like Ruby Dixon's world building, her strong characters, and finding connection, human alien connection when there's chaos going on. So I wanted to kind of combine the two. So that's what influenced me for this.
That's a nice combination. And you said Indian in the Cupboard, which is an amazing book. So
yes.
I found that we have the little libraries around town, and there was one there. My kids had never read it. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get it. They're like, what is this book? I'm like, you need to read it. So awesome. Thank you so much, Brandi. Paul, we're at time, but do you think we have 1 minute just to ask a quick question, and that is, what's next, or what do you think?
Yes, let's do what's next round.
All right, I'll let you take over this one.
We'll just send it back the other way. Brandi, go ahead. You can start it.
Okay, well, what's the question? Sorry.
What's next for you? I know you're kind of querying your thesis novel. Tell us about what your plans are.
Okay, so I'm querying. I have 20 agents queried right now, and I'm also starting on the outline for the next in the series. It's going to follow a different set of characters that were introduced, introduced in this first book. So I have like 3 of them kind of planned out, not outlined yet, and they're going to all connect. So I've got that going on. And I start another grad program in the fall that will hopefully put me on the track to my PhD program. And I've also been asked to come and teach editing and publishing out at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. So I'm really excited about that.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's my plan right now.
That sounds great. You're gonna be busy.
Yes.
Trenton, what about you?
Recently, I submitted 2 short scripts into a competition.
Cool.
Waiting to get some feedback before I can like resubmit it. They give you like a period to make some changes based on the feedback. I'm really excited. I like how they turned out too. One was literally a 2-page short script, and that was like the shortest thing I think I've ever written. And I loved the challenge of condensing something to something so quick. So to work on that, and then I'm also working on my next full-length script as well, still horror, of course.
Yep.
Kind of even going back and forth on which idea I want to do next. But looking forward to doing that.
That sounds great. This is the time to be doing horror scripts, I think.
Yeah, it is killing it out there.
Yeah,
It is this past year or in the past few months even.
yeah.
Like
Just last
horror
weekend.
is, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. All right. Sam, what about you? Sam,
Right
yeah.
now I am querying. I have some queries floating out there, and I also got a full request, so I'm waiting to hear back from that.
Yes.
Fingers
Awesome.
crossed.
Yes.
But yeah, but please. As I'm waiting to hear back, I am plotting my next novel. It's going to be still in the same vein, but more new adult. So yeah, I have to keep working to stop checking Query Tracker.
Okay, Ethan, what about you?
I'm currently plotting out what I hope to be is my debut novel. I'm trying to work out this like honorable knight and like rogue like fantasy dynamic. And that's been really fun to like build little kingdoms and all these little like fun places for them to travel through together and like how their relationship builds through
Mhm.
each different place.
Have you ever read The Wizard Knight by Gene Wolfe?
No, I haven't, but I'll add that to my list.
Add it to your list. I think it might be of use to you. And
Thank you.
Samantha, what about you?
Oh, so I'm still working on the memoir that I did for my master's thesis, just in bits and pieces. Aside from that, I'm working on a sapphic romance novel about a bi-curious, aspiring ceramicist who has been trapped in an emotionally abusive relationship for like 5 years and ends up falling for a stranger after she temporarily escapes her partner. One thing that I really love about it is that it offers Filipino representation in the literary world, and that's something that I feel that has been scarce, or at least it has been until recently. So that's one thing that I love about it, and it's also like a step away from. It's still like emotional writing, but a different type of emotional writing that isn't too close to home. Yeah.
I could imagine after those two memoirs that fiction might give you a respite of a kind.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing your work with us tonight. Just incredible, beautiful, powerful, moving work. We want to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who came tonight and who has come to previous Word for Words and has supported us this season. This year, we were honored to welcome a fantastic lineup of guests. And you can see the videos of all of these events at our YouTube channel, including authors Paul Tremblay, Melinda Lowe, Courtney Milan, and Chuck Tingle, the amazing Chuck Tingle. Industry experts Jane Friedman and Laura Stanfill, faculty authors Dan Gleason and Tracy Crow, and the Penman Review Fall Fiction finalists. And then tonight, of course, our outstanding graduates from the BA, MA, and Online MFA creative writing programs. Each of our participants has shared compelling work and thoughtful insights into the worlds of creative writing and publishing, and we're truly grateful for their contributions tonight and wish them the best of luck as they move forward into what I'm sure will be successful careers. If you missed any events and want to revisit your favorites, like I mentioned, be sure to check out our Word for Word YouTube playlist, which I believe Jacob is going to link in the chat. Tonight's reading will also be posted there soon, so keep an eye out for that. Finally, a big congratulations and best wishes to all of our graduate students, represented tonight by Ethan, Samantha B., Trenton, Brandi, and Samantha H., as they take their next steps. Thank you again for being part of this community, and we look forward to seeing you again in the fall. Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you all. Take care. See you next season.